real name of the table is the Hamptons Round Table.
We met at Hamptons, which is a hamburger joint on Highland.
It was started at a restaurant called the Hamptons.
So we'd meet every week, but then one week we came to Hamptons and it was closed, and the next week it was bulldozed. So clearly this was a message that we had to move on. So the next place we went to was
Hamburger Hamlet.
Bob's Big Boy on Wilshire.
For a while, it was in like a pancake place, like an IHOP or something.
We moved to several other places. We're on the run. It's like a rave party. No one knows where it'll be next week.
And now we're almost permanently ensconced in Patty's.
My name is Bob Green, and I am one of the managers of Patty's Restaurant. They approached me to see if they could use the room, and we've done every Thursday night ever since.
Do you even know what the group is about?
I think it's people that are just starting out.
usually the table runs between 20 to 40 people on a given night, and it's always a mixture of writers, directors, actors, producers, editors, composers, novelists.
People who've just come to Los Angeles, who have their dreams ahead of them.
People who I think are going on their best instinct, where they really want to be part of community.
It's everybody from Emmy winners to people that just got off the boat and they're like, I want to work in the entertainment industry. Well, what do you want to do? I don't know.
Prop people, makeup people, set designers.
Do you want to be a producer? What's that? It's those people.
There are British members of the table, Italian members, Australian members. We even have one guy from Norway.
Anyone can join this group.
We've got the whole range. We've got some crazy looking people too.
Every once in a while there's a jerk. Every once in a while there's a phony. Every once in a while somebody comes in and starts bragging about the wonderful things they've done. And you can sort of like hear everybody cringing, you know, come on. You don't have to impress us. Just tell the truth.
My name is Mark Zikri, and I'm the founder of the table, which I've been running every Thursday for 18 years. Well, welcome. Thank you. Those who just come in, they're doing a documentary on the table, and so if you don't want to be filmed, if you don't want your share to be filmed, just speak up and it'll be fine. The way the table works is this. We come to the restaurant, we order food, we go around the table, and basically everyone has about 5 minutes to say what they're up to.
Since we last talked, the money came through on the hip-hop films. I signed the contracts Monday. $18.5 million budget.
Wow, that's good.
Hip-hop dance film.
The first time I met you, I looked at you and just thought, hip-hop.
That's right.
In a given evening, it can literally be someone's making a short.
I'm getting ready to shoot a short on Saturday, where I've just been promoted to DP, locations, grip, Gaffert, and an actor.
Someone who's just gotten out of film school.
I'm an artist, writer, musician, and film school dropout. I'm making a documentary about breast cancer right now. My fiance died of breast cancer last year.
Anyone who's in the game in any way, shape, or form.
I know almost everybody here, so I'll only introduce myself briefly as a former U.S. diplomat and nowadays an actor and a writer.
I'm from Israel. I'm an actress and I'm a screenwriter, and I just finished yesterday writing. Yay. My screenplay is about my grandparents running away from the Nazi, but they have a funny Holocaust movie. Yay. It's funny. I know, it's slow, so
I think it's called Ha Ha Holocaust. There might be someone who's a showrunner who's created a hit show or more.
I'm leaving town in a week to go direct Caprica, the Battlestar Spinoff.
We give people about 5 minutes to say what they need.
If anybody has an assistant position they need filled for a few weeks.
So is there anything you need?
Auditions.
So is there anything you need?
Money.
And then we just start answering questions and hooking them up with whatever they need, whatever resources or information or personnel or expertise.
If you need to have any technical advice on anything that has to do with the police, go ahead and give me a call.
You two sir over there doing the hip-hop movie. I've been shooting a documentary the whole past year on the whole breakdance scene, the third wave. I got access to a lot of the underground breakdancers that are world champions.
German is my second language. I'm a diplomatic historian, and I'd be happy to take a look at your
I am looking to make the best of this year's pilot season. I want better headshots, so I'm looking for something that's better.
Jim Metropole, he has a standing deal of taking headshots for table members. His team charges one martini. Yeah, 2 martinis. Another way I I designed it is that there's no roll call. You can come every week, and some people do, or you can come once every 5 years. But there's also a website and an email component to the table where you can send one email out to all 1,000 members. And the website component is overseen by Dave Taylor.
I was trying to raise money for a game called Fallout. And at the same time, I was taking acting classes because I was just having fun doing that, and I'm in LA and when in Rome. And so I was on the CBS Radford lot. I had heard that this guy named Mark Zikri was giving a lecture to the screenwriters next door. And I mentioned I was doing this to the guy, the organizer dude there, and he said, you should talk to Mark. He might know about this stuff, might be able to help you. And so I sort of explained it to him. And he slowed me down and said, just come to the meetings. While I was sort of preparing the big pitch for this, the company that owns Fallout sort of sold it quietly. Well, I got very angry and stopped working on it. But by then I was kind of hooked on the table, and I was, you know, just sort of hanging out with them.
My God, look at that. It's Dave Taylor. He actually exists. Dave Taylor. Wow.
Dave, we have several people who need to talk to you about getting on your list.
Yes, that's right.
I need a chair.
He needs a chair, man. He needs a chair.
Your take on Mark.
Okay, well, Mark, first of all, he's impressive as hell. He has been doing this table for 15 some odd years now. Meets once a week, every Thursday, without fail. I don't know how the hell he does that. He's had to work as an indie producer type guy for so long and so hard. He's gotten these self-promotional, you know, kung fu down. And so sometimes as you're going around, he'll go into, let's use an example about me. Or as he likes to say, when it's his turn at the table, he likes to, it's time for me, wonderful me.
Me, wonderful me, yay, 3 cheers. It's me, wonderful me, yay, 3 cheers. It's me, wonderful me, yay, 3 cheers, yay. I've been in the business for over 35 years. I sold my first short story at 19. I was writing my first book at 22. I was writing TV scripts when I was a kid. I wrote a Star Trek script when I was 10. But the first scripts I sold were around the time I was 22, 23 years old. I went to UCLA as a painting, sculpture, and graphic arts major, and so I was having gallery shows and selling my paintings and photographs. When I was a teenager, I was appearing in national magazines with my artwork. But by the time I was 19, I knew that I wanted to be a writer. So I went to the Clarion Writers Workshop at Michigan State University. Basically, it's a 6-week course in the summer. 25 students, 6 different famous science fiction writers come live with you, 1 per week, and you write like crazy, you workshop each other's stories. It's very intense. But through that, I sold my first short story. I'd actually written it when I was 18, and I sold it when I was 19. And that convinced me that, first of all, someone would pay for my work, for my writing, and that I might actually be able to make a go of a career as a writer. I started in animation. My friend Michael Reeves was writing for a show called Space Stars, which starred Space Ghost. And so I started by collaborating with him, and it was very clear very quickly that I could write scripts on my own, animation scripts. So I wrote for shows such as Smurfs, He-Man, Super Friends, Real Ghostbusters, The Littles. I was basically the god of animation. And it paid very, very well, but it really wasn't where my heart was. So I told all of my employers that I was going to take a break and not be available for writing assignments so that I could write my spec live-action feature, which would be my calling card to get into live-action television and films. I went to UCLA to write that script. This was before cell phones, so I wasn't reachable. That script sold and got me a pilot deal with NBC, and that pilot got shot and aired, and I was in live-action television, and I did not look back. Then I was writing for shows like Beauty and the Beast with Ron Perlman, and I was a story editor on Friday the 13th, the series, and I was writing for tons and tons of our dramas, Star Trek The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5, Sliders, just dozens and dozens of hours of produced television shows. But I was always rooting for the little guy. I often tell people that there are 2 Hollywoods. There's the Hollywood of arrogance and ostentation and exclusion, which I really hate, and I'm determined not to be part of. But then there's the other Hollywood, and that's as real and legitimate as the first one. And that's basically good-hearted people working to make TV shows and movies that will change people's lives for the better, that will stand the test of time, that will really be worth making and worth seeing. And I want this to be a supportive environment.
People go back to it for for support, for inspiration. When things get not so good, they can go back and be revitalized and get a second wind. It's enormously important. People get lost in LA easily, and the round table is a way of getting centered, finding out who you are, finding out what it is you want to do.
People feel that they're part of a community where they can actually get together to make stuff, books, TV shows, web series, films, and that they're part of something bigger than themselves, that they belong. And so there's no pecking order, there's no arrogance. Everyone's welcome. Let's design something that would basically be Hollywood the way I'd want it to be. Now, something that's coming up for me is that Elaine and I wrote a pilot together called Magic Time. I sold it as a trilogy of novels to HarperCollins. Now we're coming back to TV with it. So I had the idea of recording the entire 2-hour pilot as a radio play that I could then use as audio track for a Magic Time trailer to help sell the show. So I put out the word at the table that I needed actors, recording engineers, equipment, a performance space, and within a matter of days I had everything I needed. It was truly an embarrassment of riches.
Mark and I met on the set of Deep Space Nine, and we had a great time. We had immediate chemistry between the two of us. We've been friends ever since. I first heard about Magic Time pretty much at the beginning of our relationship, and Mark came over to the house wanting to take a picture of me, which they were going to Photoshop and then make into a grunter. That was my first introduction to Magic Time. It was great fun to be in the radio and hear the other voices, because when I read the book, all I had was the voices in my head, so to hear other actors doing a wonderful job was terrific.
Magic Time. Written and directed by Mark Scott Zikri and Elaine Zikri. Produced by Robert Amico. Starring Armin Shimmerman, Christina Moses, David Polson, Sarah Jo Elise, Richard Tanner, Nathaniel Freeman, and Joe Achman.
I think that there's a real school spirit that we get at the table. For instance, there's a table member named Jim Metropole, who's a playwright, and he's also a photographer. He was, in fact, a rock photographer. He shot album covers for guys like Neil Diamond and Ricky Nelson, and he has a standing offer to any table member that he'll take their headshot for free. Well, actually, the cost is one martini.
I've shot about 35 headshots, 35 different people. Always
That's a lot of martinis, like
yeah, that's a lot of martinis, yeah.
Not all in one day.
Not all the time, no. Over 5 years. Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Jim Metropole, and right now I'm shooting movies. So, I'm shooting movies. I started life in theater. I was in and out of theater most of my life, but in 1993 I built my own theater in Hollywood. It was called the Metropole Theater Works. I wrote and directed 28 plays, 14 full-length, 14 one-acts in 36 different productions. A couple of them stink, and a couple of them are brilliant. So there. I left my theater 2001, May 2001. The evil landlord sold the building. The new evil landlord doubled the rent, so I decided it's time to get out of theater. I was always a still photographer. I had a family. I made my living as a still photographer. I was a rock and roll photographer at the height of rock and roll. I worked for a very, very big rock star. I won't mention his name. I worked for him for a year. Everything I photographed, they used. And just before he opened at the Greek Theater, 1970, he fired me, just like that. Goodbye. And I said, I'm out of this business. And I got into every form of photography there is. I did mostly people. And then I got into aerospace for 12 years. I also am a theater critic. I write right now for the Beverly Hills Courier. I've published over 500 articles on theater and film in 20 years. So theater is a big part of my life. Not the biggest part, because I've also been a still photographer all my life. So the combination theater, still photographs, movies. So I started shooting short films. I shot 5. Then I got a producer friend from the table, Nancy Fulton, and Nancy produced my first feature. It's called Oblivious. Then I started shooting my second feature, which is called The Burden of Esteem. A woman from the table came aboard to be my producer, Crystal Ann Taylor. Also, in Oblivious, there were 7 or 8 people from the table I used as actors. Burden of Esteem, there's about 7 or 8 people from the table. There's a table member named Jim Troche. Jim Troche asked me to do his headshot. So I said to him casually, so what do you do besides, I heard you're a writer? He said, yeah, I'm a writer and I design websites. And I said, well, would you design a website for me? He did. He designed 3 websites for me. I got him a job designing a website for my big account. Jim made about $2,500, so I felt very good, and we've been friends ever since.
My name is Jim Troche. I am an actor, writer, producer. I've been in Hollywood doing this for a good portion of my life, and it is what I do. I had a girlfriend, and she said, Jim, I got this really cool group that I hang with. There are actors and writers and producers. And I thought, I'm already an actor, writer, and what do I want to hang with other people like that for? She goes, yeah, just go. So I went, and I've been pretty well hooked ever since. She disappeared shortly after I started with the table. I broke up with her. Thank God. And
should we include that, or would you
Yes.
like me to edit them?
no, no, I'm sure she'll feel exactly the same way.
Oh, okay. It was mutual.
Yes, it was a mutual breakup.
Gotcha.
She is still alive. There's no body buried anywhere. And I have to say, thank you for bringing me here, because this group has totally changed my life.
Do you want to talk about
The accident?
the accident?
When I was 14 years old, like most 14-year-old boys, I thought I was immortal. I did crazy stuff, you know, weird stuff on our bikes, and, you know, we thought nothing could possibly happen to us. So I was over at my friend's house. He had just fixed this TV, and he wanted an antenna on the roof. And on his roof, there was a big tower that went up like, I don't know, 30 feet. So I climbed up and took the antenna up there with me. I swung it up to put it in the top of the tower, and a big 40,000 volt spark of electricity jumped off the wire into the antenna. So I got electrocuted. I flew off the tower, bounced off the roof, and somewhere in there broke my neck. So when I woke up 11 days later, I was paralyzed from the neck down. I was in the hospital for about almost a year and a half, and then I came home, and life was way different. I was taking an acting class because I was in radio production in college. I auditioned for this part in a play called Cane Mutiny Court Martials, and it was a character who was not quadriplegic. And I got all kinds of press because, hey, look, a quadriplegic guy is, you know, playing a role. And it gave me a huge boost to the fact that, wow, I can actually make it as an actor, maybe. 3 years later, I auditioned for this part on Highway to Heaven. And this part was actually for a black quadriplegic guy in an electric wheelchair, of which I didn't have an electric wheelchair, and I'm not an African American. I actually am, but don't mention it to my dad. He doesn't know. Our delivery man was, no. I digress. So I went in and I auditioned, and they called me 3 hours later. Hey, you're going to be on the show, which to me meant, whoa, 4 days work, and I have an actual part. I'm not like in the background or anything. And I got to meet friggin' Michael Landon, which was, you know, plenty for me. My part got expanded. He gave me more juicy stuff to do, and while I was there, they said, hey, we hear you're also a writer. Have you got any ideas for the show? So I wrote up an idea for the show, and they bought it, and it was the episode A Match Made in Heaven. I was starting to get recognized everywhere, because my shows typically ran the top 10. So there's like millions of people that watched it. And then all of a sudden, when the show ended, things slowed way down. I blamed it immediately on my disability. This one guy specifically told me, it's not you, man. It's not quadriplegic. It's the nature of the business. So I disappeared for a while, not because I wanted to, because I just couldn't get work. And then I realized about 6-7 years ago that if I started writing and marketing Elaine from the round table helped focus me on that and helped me to realize that it's a lot more level playing field as a writer. There was a Christian friend of mine not too long after my accident that said, you know, God can work miracles in your life. And I'm like, yeah, let's see him make me walk again. And, well, if God wants you to be a writer, he'll figure a way for you to write, which I figured was use my hands. Now they have this technology that I can write scripts or whatever. Microphone on, new line. Several years ago, I called a small production company that did mostly urban comedies that went direct to video, and they generally starred rap stars and things like that. So I called them and said, what do you need in the way of website? And we were talking about that. And I said, what kind of scripts you looking for? One of them said, I got this great idea for a script about a black stripper named Harlem. Would you like to write that? And I'm like, yes. Because I'm thinking, this is an offer from a producer to write a script. I didn't care if there was money or anything, but I have since learned to care. We have a project that we'd like you to get involved in called Color of the Cross, and it's about Black Jesus. Would you like to write that? And by the way, we're going to give you money this time. So I said, absolutely. Started writing this script and went to the internet and learned way more than I ever thought I would know about the Bible. I wrote this project. It got produced, came out in theaters. And I'm like, oh my God. So there, you know, I was at the Writers Guild watching the premiere of it, and I'm like, okay, here it comes. Written by Jim Troche. Oh, that was so cool. By the way, the other thing about Harlem is that it just won a contest through the Writers Guild to be read as part of a Black screenwriters staged reading event. I needed actors and actresses to be in it, and I found 3 outrageously terrific actors. Up here at the top is Jordan from the table, and over here on the left is James. This guy here on the right, Nathaniel, is the lead.
I'm Nathaniel Freeman. I'm an actor. I discovered the table because when I moved out of New York to Los Angeles 4 years ago, my manager at that time was already a table member, and she had suggested that it would be a good idea for me to go to the round table and meet some people that could possibly help me with my career. I didn't have family or friends out here, so pretty much my family quickly became the table. The very first thing I needed was pictures and resumes, because when I came out I had a stack of 8x10s that were all black and white, which was the format for a New York actor. Well, fellow table member Jim Metropole is a photographer, so he volunteered to take my first 8x10s.
Richard Bosch comes to the table. Guy's big, professorial-looking guy. He introduces himself as a photographer. So I look at him, I go, yeah, he's no photographer. Yeah, I don't know what he does, but he's no photographer. So I'm sneering at him to myself. So then I introduce myself. I don't say anything about photography. So the evening's winding down, and I look over at him, and he's got his hands over some kind of a portfolio. So I say, so you're a photographer? He goes, yeah. I said, is that your book? He goes, yeah. I said, can I look at your pictures? He goes, yeah. I take the book, and I open it, and I look at 24 of the most magnificent color photographs of a mosque in Pakistan where he was sent on commission by the Smithsonian. So I finished looking at him. I look at him, I say, you're not a photographer, you're an artist. These are amazing. So needless to say, we are best friends.
My name is Richard Bosch, and I am a writer, producer, director. I must say that story, which Jim really enjoys telling, it's a wonderful story, and it makes me very happy to hear that he's told it to someone else. I went to film school before you were born. That much I can tell you for sure. Was the first director of filmmaker training at the American Film Institute. Then kind of got out of the film business and had a career in Washington, D.C. of making still photographs, making corporate and documentary videos, and lecturing at the Smithsonian Institution. So I had a pretty wonderful career. This year, I have gotten some funding to make a documentary about Herman Mankiewicz, who was the writer of Citizen Kane, Dinner at 8, The Pride of the Yankees, you know, a lot of great classic Hollywood films. Hello, I'm Richard Bosch, and I'm here to introduce you to some of the highlights from a documentary that I'm producing about the life and work of Herman Mankiewicz. We made this 9-minute little video, and I made it as a fundraising tool. And then I brought it one night and showed it at the table, and I could not believe it. People sat there and watched it and applauded when it was over. As will become obvious very shortly, using the table once again, I am going to be interviewing Mark, who is a legitimate, authentic Hollywood writer, and having him talk about his experience as a Hollywood writer and his reflections on Herman Mankiewicz. I'm Richard Bosch. I'm a writer, producer, director of a documentary.
Yay!
Yes.
I don't have much. It was a shit week. Everything went wrong except one highlight. Anna came over and she taped me in front of my editing suite. I answered a bunch of questions, and I talked for like 35 minutes. 40.
Hi everybody, I'm Nathaniel Freeman. I have been a very fortunate recipient of a lot of the table members' help in terms of getting pictures done, resumes for all of you people that are here for the first time. The table does work. I recently got my acting reel together at long last over the course of one afternoon by our documentarian here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm Elaine Zikri. I'm a co-host of The Table, and I come from 10 years in theater. I then did 20 years in television, mostly with my husband, Mark Zikri. We met through a mutual friend, and now we've been together for like 35 years. What was sad for us is we kept seeing people who had the energy, and they had the drive, and they had the skill, and they would say, well, I guess I just can't cut it in this town, and they would fold up their tents and they'd go back. And we sometimes lose some major talents just because they couldn't plumb the conduit.
Basically, the beginning of The Table was I was working professionally as a writer, producer in television, and I noticed that most of my friends were bummed out and isolated and gloomy and depressed and had no support structure. So I decided that rather than just bemoaning the situation, I would actually do something about it and create something that would be an antidote to that state.
And so that's when we said, well, we really need a supportive environment. We want to see the Hollywood that we want to have exist.
You really can't talk about Mark unless you talk about Elaine. They are an incredible team. They work in tandem. They're both enormously gifted writers. They're very fortunate to have found each other because they help each other. Elaine has got one of the greatest hearts you'll ever meet. She's enormously sensitive to what you're going through, and she picks up on that enormously well.
You know, I was brought up by communists, and I have a socialist temperament. And so taking care of the team and respecting the team and respecting everybody's viewpoint, it's my nature. It's all has to do with being a bit codependent and taking care of people. And so it suits the codependent nature to run a team.
Explains everything.
Yeah.
She's enormously kind, enormously talented, and she complements Mark perfectly.
I've been with Elaine for 35 years, and we've been married for 34. I met her when I was 20, when I just gotten back from Clarion. I just sold my first short story. She was it, that was it. Got married a year later, and it's been great ever since. She shares my worldview, she shares my spirit, she inspires me, she co-runs the table with me. We both come from a point of compassion in the way we look at the world, and that's given me courage to take risks and to reach out to others in a very positive way.
I wanted to lead a real life the way they do in books. And so I did hobo around the country as well. When I was in New York, I worked as a temp for a long time in the publishing industry and advertising. I've worked as a waitress, I was a maid, as a teacher, as an aide in senior centers, an activities director. I worked picking with the pickers in Oregon. I had just about every kind of job you can imagine.
We're negotiating the book deal with Guillermo del Toro. It looks like I'll be doing a book with Guillermo.
Sucks to be you.
I think Mark is a unique guy because he has all the knowledge of the genre, and I think he's, one of the mainstays in genre theory. I think that what he is doing is something that in theory should exist in every city, in every university, in every film major class, et cetera, because it's truly finding a way to bring forth the storytelling and the developing of ideas in a place that is not commerce oriented, that is purely artistic. For somebody that has the knowledge that Mark has, doing that guarantees new voices in the genre, new voices in filmmaking, and I think it's incredibly necessary to do that, to renew the, if we only listen to the same voices in film, it becomes very tiresome. And I think doing that is necessary for the medium more than anything else.
After I finished The Twilight Zone Companion, I decided to write a screenplay about my mother. That's when I did all those interviews with her and her friends and her ex-husbands and so forth and her family. And I would come here to the La Brea Tar Pits and I would just spread out a blanket and write all day, longhand. And I was trying to tell too big a story. I couldn't nail it. So I had to put that aside. This is right after The Twilight Zone Companions. And The Twilight Zone Companion was a hit. I was on the Today Show and all that sort of thing. But I put in the time on the book about my mom. And then I just hung it up. I said, I can't lick this right now. And so I put it aside after about a year. And then my mom died. Finally, it took about 20 years for me to be able to finally come back to this material on my mom and write about it in a book.
When was the last time you were on a TV show?
The last time I was on staff on a show was Sliders, and that was 1998. 1997, 98, now it's 2009, so it's been a decade. For 20 years I rose very steadily, and then, I tried to make the jump to showrunner, and then there was that lag in being on a show. Star Trek episode I did to reinvent myself and get myself back on the map. I now have enormous numbers of fans in the industry that I didn't have before.
We met under Twilight Zone circumstances.
Right.
He was writing a book on it.
Yes. Yeah. But I don't know if you know, George, the New York Times just named the Twilight Zone Companion about 10 science fiction books for the ages.
For the ages?
Yes, it was the only non-fiction book. Thank you.
I just touched someone who's got a place in the ages.
Yes. The struggle I'm having now is, if someone had said to me, 20 years ago, there will come a time in your career where you're nominated for the Hugo and the Nebula, you win the TV Guide Award, you have fans all over the world, you have fans in the highest hierarchies of television, and you still can't get an agent. I wouldn't have believed it. So, but the industry has changed, which is that agents now want the sure thing, they want the slam dunk, they want the person that, has gone from show to show to show with no breaks in their earning history. So that gives me two options: to either make it happen on my own without an agent, which is hard in television, or find the agent who's willing to take the journey with me. So essentially, I wrote this book about my mother, and yet I wasn't able to get an agent for it. And it's the first time I wasn't able to get an agent for a book. So I did some rewrites on the book, and I have a friend who's a journalist for Smithsonian, and he writes science books and all sorts of stuff, and he gave me a methodology that had worked with him, which was have your assistant research 25 to 50 agents who have all had nonfiction bestsellers in the last 2 years, and then contact all of them. And so I did that. I had my assistant, Will Watkins, make a list of 25 agents, and we emailed them, and then I called them personally.
I'm Will Watkins. My wife and I moved here from Chicago back in August. Met Mark at the Screenwriting Expo that's held annually here in LA as he was doing a session on Star Trek. Got to know who he was and was really impressed with what he had been trying to create. in Hollywood, which was the Round Table. From then on, we stayed in touch. I started kind of working as his assistant from Chicago. I'd always been, really interested in movies and television, and never really thought that could actually happen. So meeting Mark was definitely, I would say, the final straw that said, yeah, you can do this, because he presented Hollywood very differently from my perceptions of it.
Well, I do have a creative side. However, I am a pediatrician, and that's my passion. That's what I do on a daily basis. I like to go to the table because it inspires me to know that there are people who are always following their dream. Again, if anybody needs to see a doctor.
She's a pediatrician and works at a very good clinic.
So if you can impersonate a child, you're
Used to, because she lives with me.
It would help enormously to have an agent in film and TV. It was like, but it's like, well, write another script and we'll read it and maybe that'll be enough. It's like, oh gosh. Okay. That agency said, well, all you have to do is write another great script. It's like, okay, it doesn't matter that the Star Trek episode is great. It doesn't matter the Controllers is great. It's like, okay, you have to do another one. Do I know I have another one in me? I don't know. I hope so. I mean, it's funny, you doing this documentary is like, it's a double-edged sword. It's like really fun to have you going around and talking to my friends and hearing that they actually say good, nice things about me. On the other hand, it's like, oh my God, I've got to have a happy ending for this documentary. I've got to succeed at the end of the year. It's like, which is actually a good pressure. It's a good pressure. It focuses me, but it's funny. It's like, oh, I don't want the ending of the documentary to be, tragic. I mean, the thing I have to remind myself, and it's very hard. I mean, because pride and arrogance, are, well, you'll stumble on them. You have to accept, and I advise this. I always have to take my own advice, which is, stop saying it shouldn't be this way. Just say, this is the way it is. What needs to be done?
Your super mentor classes, you have students on a regular basis?
Yes.
Or are they...
Yes, we teach the classes ongoingly, and it provides an income base, so that so that I'm not dependent on, film and TV. But I still get residuals, I still get royalties, but my prime income is not from writing at this stage, it's from teaching. And, but I designed that because when I stopped being able to earn money, I had to come up with plan B. That's where, I went into Debtors Anonymous, and it was like, okay, let's see what we can do here. And then what I'll sometimes do is I'll work some trades. So someone might do our bookkeeping, or someone might clean our house, or someone might, work as an assistant for a while. I mean, I've worked out with Will Watkins, my assistant. We were trading, me mentoring him in exchange for him being my assistant. And
so that's how that works.
Yes, yeah. And unfortunately, he has to do something like eat, and pay the rent.
I finished my second screenplay, and I finished my second draft of my second screenplay, so I'm excited about that. And just excited to be here and getting ready to have a baby, as Mark mentioned. So that's the other big excitement.
Yay!
It was totally a surprise. Yeah, we literally.
Surprise.
Yeah, we literally found out 2 days before we got on the road.
On a Tuesday, the moving truck came to pick up our things. So we were sleeping in our house on air mattresses and our suitcases to travel to California. And we were waiting to close on our house. And so finally, we just decided the following Monday we were leaving no matter what. On Saturday, we found out we were pregnant after 5 years of wanting to have a baby and nothing happening, right?
Yeah, nothing.
If I had known even 3 days earlier, before our things were gone, it may have changed our plans.
I think so. Like we mentioned before, I've been looking for a studio job, and obviously that's been very challenging for everyone right now.
I need my husband to get work. He's a fabulous photographer, and so he can work so I can play.
Althea, with this art director who worked on Dr. Horrible, where she said, I'm looking for a feature script to direct. And I said, well, I think I've got one. And she read it and liked it a lot, My Dad's Girl. And she said, why did you give this to me? Is it a trick? It's like, no, I just got a feeling about you. You've got great hair. Yeah.
So we're going to do that. So it's all happening.
My Dad's Girl is a romantic comedy I wrote based on the time when I was 16 that my dad asked me to take his 17-year-old mistress to her prom, which I did. And, yeah. My parents were divorced when I was 3, and I was raised by my mom in Los Angeles, and my dad raised a second family in Orange County, and so I have 3 brothers from that marriage. And every other week or so, I would go out for the weekend to my other family in Orange County, and I would sleep on in a sleeping bag in the living room. And so I always felt something like an outsider with my second family. So I've always had the sense of being an only child on one hand, and yet having siblings on the other. And so it's a real sense of dislocation and always looking for where I belonged. And I turned inward. And one of the reasons I'm a writer is because I needed an escape from that terrible situation. So I turned to science fiction. I turned to comic books and television and science fiction novels and all of that to try to escape as far away as I could get. I mean, what further escape could you have than an alien planet, you know, another galaxy? Usually when you really study what makes someone a writer, there's some dislocation, some family, some illness, some injury as a kid, something that turns them toward observation and standing apart. And so this was, I think, the thing that really shaped me to a very, very large extent. My dear friend Michael Reeves, who started me in television, in his late 40s was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And so here you've got a guy who's written and sold over 400 teleplays. He's written 30 novels. He's had New York Times bestsellers. He's an Emmy winner. But slowly but surely, Michael was losing the ability to speak. And when his girlfriend got a job up in Santa Barbara, they moved up there, but he didn't know a soul in Santa Barbara. And you know, it's very hard to make friends and meet people when you can't speak, because people assume that there's something gravely wrong with you. They tend to keep their distance, when of course internally Michael's witty and delightful and fun, and I just knew that he just needed people to see him for who he truly was, see past that disability. So I had the idea of starting a round table in Santa Barbara. So I talked to Michael about that, and I reached out and got the thing running. And so now it meets every week up in Santa Barbara, and Michael runs it along with a professor from UC Santa Barbara. And it's a thriving concern, and Michael has friends now up there, and he has a circle, and I'm really very gratified by that.
My name is Chris Wyatt, and I'm a professional Mark Scott Zikri fan, and I'm also an independent film producer. I was working my way through grad school as an entertainment journalist for a magazine called Cinescape. And I was associate editor. I was in charge of the book section, among other things. And his book, Magic Time, came through as a galley. I interviewed Mark, and I hit it off with him. I thought he was just the nicest guy, a really cool guy to interview. And as a part of the interview, he mentioned that he helped run a table of filmmakers, and that, you know, they had conversations weekly, and, you know, all as a community tried to help each other out. When I heard that, I was like, wow, I need to be a part of something like that. I had a notion to do a comedy film for only a few $100,000. It was just meant to be a first project for me and for the director. We decided we can make this for a few $100,000 if we begged and borrowed from friends. Everybody really thought it was a bad idea, or that it wouldn't work. You know, it was kind of like, wow, should I even try this? For a few meetings at the table, like I didn't, you know, I was too nervous to mention it. You know, my 60 seconds would come around and I'd be like, oh, well, I'm in school and everything's going well. And, you know, I couldn't even use my 60 seconds, right? One week, I got the courage to say, you know, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna raise a few $100,000 and I'm gonna make a feature. And Mark just looked at me and goes, well, you can do that. And I was like, I wasn't sure if he was making fun of me. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you're a talented guy, you're a smart guy, and I think a few $100,000 is very achievable, you know, for a first film. And I was like, oh, really? Wow, well, all right. Talking to Mark, I started to really get up my confidence. We went on and we raised this money. It took about 2 years, but we raised this money for this movie called Think Tank. In the meantime, I had a friend who had a script called Napoleon Dynamite and wanted me to, you know, also be on board producing that project. And so I was sort of being mentored through those early money pitches at the table. I was gone for a while, and then when I came back, I told him all about my experiences on my first movie and, you know, that kind of stuff. Mark and I, you know, meet for lunch every few months and just talk about what we've got going on. And yeah, for a long time we've sort of looked to do something together. We've never sort of found the right thing that all the pieces sort of fit into. But yeah, I hope to work with him one day, hopefully sooner rather than later.
We're gearing up to roll Magic Time out. We're going to take it to the licensing show. We're going to take it to TV and film. So we've recorded the 90-minute pilot as a radio play in December, and so we've got the version edited. So now we're generating animatics and trailers. So we'll use it to meet with producers, with film companies, TV companies. We're just basically going to use these things to get people excited.
I've done several now versions of this character in Magic Time, and it just gets richer and richer and better and better.
So I was at this function at the TV Academy where they were talking all about new media, and they challenged us to come up with an idea for a podcast. So I just kind of yelled out, "Hey, I got one." And they came over with the microphone. They said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a quadriplegic guy, and I'm pretty much the only one, and I work in Hollywood, so why don't we do a podcast called The Hollywood Quad?" So I went to Mark and Elaine, and I said, "So I got this idea to do a podcast, and it's all about me in the entertainment business." And they said, "Do it." So I bought a little camera and shot it. And I have a Mac, so I edited it. And I thought, this isn't so bad. I can do this. So I put it up on the internet, and it got a lot of hits. So at that point, people are like, what's next? The best advice Mark Zikri ever gave me was to be as bold as you can possibly be. So I thought, why don't I make this little internet series into a pilot for a TV show? Years ago, I met Bryan Cranston. He's the dad on Malcolm in the Middle, and he's on Breaking Bad right now. And I wrote an article about him, and he directed me in a TV pilot. So I contacted him about this pilot that I was doing, asked him if he wanted to be in it. And after he read it, he said, I'd love it. So we shot his part all in one day. And he shows up on the set, and I'm there with my crew, and we talk about the scene and everything, and then he goes off to wardrobe, and my crew and I are like, we got freaking Bryan Cranston. Bryan Cranston, can you believe it? And he comes back, and then we're all like, oh, and hi, Bryan. So yeah, we'll have you over here, and inside we're going,
Hey, I'm Melrose.
Matt, nice to meet you. I can't shake you.
Oh, come on, of course you can. Look.
No,
see?
no,
Ah. Ooh.
Yeah, okay.
I'll just put it back.
Yeah, put it back where it was, yeah.
A lot of things have happened since we last spoke.
A couple, yeah. In order of importance would be we had a beautiful baby daughter who's here, Hannah. Elizabeth is joining us now. Slightly less important would be that I've also very, very blessed and fortunate to get a job at Warner Brothers.
How did the Warner Brothers job come about?
Well, that came about from our wonderful mentor and friend, Mark Zikri. He contacted an executive at Warner Brothers. I got the call in the hospital, actually.
In the hospital.
That, oh yeah, Will, by the way, HR is going to call you, so, just be prepared for that. And, my daughter had just been born, and I'm thinking, if there's any more good news, I'm going to explode.
So it's just in time.
And I also have a screenplay that I'd shown to an executive at Warner Brothers, and he loved it so much that he actually wants to produce it. So, yeah, there's been a lot in the past month. That all happened over the course of the past, 6 weeks?
All lit up.
Yep, it's a Friday night, and I'm here at the offices of Coast to Coast, the top-rated nighttime radio show in the country. For some reason, radio turns out to be something I'm pretty good at, and I was a commentator on Morning Edition for 3 years, and I just kind of learned how to do it.
I've been meaning to ask you, is Mark Haynes assisting you?
Yeah, he's sort of the new Will Watkins.
Mark likes to joke that I'm his conservator. My name is Mark Haynes, and I am the Vice President of Production and Development for the Magic Time Company, and I'm also a screenwriter. I was introduced to Mark at the San Diego Comic-Con in 2007. I was living in Baltimore at the time. I only came out because the company I was working for at the time was set up at the Comic-Con. He told me about the table and invited me to come over, after being reminded twice that I was from Baltimore.
He's a comic book writer who wants to write for television, and he's moved out here from, Bosnia or wherever he's from.
And then I saw him again in 2008, And he remembered what I was working on, what my name was, where I lived, and how we met, and said, we haven't seen you at the table. At which point I said, you know I live in Baltimore, right? The summer of 2008, I moved to California, and it was still 6 months before I made it to the table, so it was January of 2009 before I got to the table, and came in, and I emailed Mark and said, is it all right if I come? He's like, of course, we've been waiting. That's what he said in his email. It's like he totally remember, how does this guy remember me?
We'll see what happens with Mark Haynes' future, but I really need those people to kind of be squeaky wheels so that I make sure I'm getting things done. It's interesting because, I'm very determined for this documentary to have an upbeat, happy ending, so I'm trying to engineer that. Mark Haynes.
Hello. As Mark introduced me, my name is Mark Haynes. Just finished my pilot script I'm working on this week, and Mark and Elaine are gracious enough to read it for me. And at least the first note I got is, well, it doesn't suck, which is good. So I'm taking that as a positive. So I came from 14 years in corporate America where I got a paycheck every 2 weeks, and it was actually a pretty good paycheck until this March. And, I freaked out for about an hour. If I hadn't been with this group, it probably would have been a lot longer, and I might have moved back to Maryland.
There are benefits in working with Mark because I don't draw any kind of salary or paycheck from the Magic Time Company, so I get to go to these classes. I get to introductions because Mark is incredibly well connected in this business. He's friends with top 10 showrunners, with shows in the top 10 rather, and he calls these people, he emails these people, and he's like, oh, just call J.J. Abrams or just call Damon Lindelof, and he's like, oh, here's their phone number. It's like, yeah, that would take a while to be able to get to that person. By associating with Mark, the people that he likes and the people that he talks to get introduced to me in kind of a, non-threatening way. It's like, hi, if they ask you who you are and what you do, as soon as you say you're a writer, they're like, okay. They're not, it's like, I'm not going to pitch you. And then they're like, thank God, yet. That's what I don't say that part.
How are you? Great. Good. This is Anna Barreto. She's making a documentary about me.
How are you? Nice to meet you, too.
I've been raving about you, so don't blow it.
From the City of Angels off the Pacific Ocean, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm George Norrie, and welcome to Coast AM. Sit back and enjoy yourself for a couple hours as we chat with Mark Zikri about the Twilight Zone and Star Trek and science fiction. If you're driving, don't sit back too far. Mark Zikri, of course, over 100 dramatic television credits to his name. It was my pleasure years ago when I first moved to the Los Angeles area to meet Mark, and what a delight he has been and a friend. Mark, welcome back to Coast.
Really glad to be here, George.
You're like a regular staple here on the show, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
I was in Germany, and I downloaded this radio show called Coast AM, and Mark comes on and starts talking, hello everybody, I'm Mark Zikri, blah, 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 and I thought, oh, this is an interesting guy. He's talking about Twilight Zone and science fiction and Star Trek, and my ears pricked up, of course, and he mentioned on this show that he had this round table thing in Los Angeles, and I thought, sounds kind of cool. He sounds like my kind of guy. He did Sliders, of course, which is a really cool TV show. I thought, man, this guy is exactly in the same headspace that I'm at, because, I make science fiction films, and that's really all I give a damn about. And it seems that Mark was obviously in that same universe, but a lot higher up. And I thought, this is a guy I've just got to go hang out with and get to know. So I pretty much finished in Germany, got on a plane, went straight to Los Angeles and found Mark Zikri. And Mark and his wife Elaine really knew what was going on, and I guess were able to sort of help direct me into that right direction, because all I really cared about was making science fiction films. By now I've made 7 films, pretty much thanks to Mark and Elaine. It was really a cool thing.
Hi, good to see you. They're making a documentary about me.
Oh, really?
Isn't that cool? This is my friend Anna.
Hi, Anna. I'm Eric.
Hi.
Hi.
It's good to see you. Yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, it's good to see you.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, we'll see what happens.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, me too. That's 2 of us. But yeah, so
You already sold 2 tickets.
there we go. Yeah, we're home free. They're making a documentary about me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is my friend.
Cool.
This is my friend Anna Barreto.
Somebody you know?
No, he just works here.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm juggling a lot right
You
now.
are.
Oh God, yes. I mean, it's funny because it's still not what I want. Most people would view my career as fairly successful.
If your future has,
many, many years of something like this year in the last.
Yeah.
Would that be satisfying to you?
No. No, because I haven't been succeeding enough. You know, I mean, it's like I made my own little film, my Star Trek film, and got nominated for the Hugo and Nebula, but it's like, okay, I'm not on the inside. It's not like JJ doing the Star Trek movie where he makes millions of dollars and his work is rewarded. I'm sort of this strange outsider, and I don't want to be an outsider. I mean, for many, many years, I wasn't an outsider. I was on the inside.
Well, you asked me a question.
Yes.
Which...
God knows.
I'm going to throw back at you. Are you still enjoying the process, or are you getting a little...
Oh, no, I'm enjoying it. It's just putting a little added pressure on me to succeed. Because I
know, Marty, that's why
but that's fun. No, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
What's not making this fun for me is I feel like I'm putting so much pressure
It's not,
on
no, my whole life is, my whole life
I'm feeling a little guilty.
Not at all. No. The thing is, my whole life is putting pressure on myself. That's what I do. I mean, it's like, here I am sitting on a Friday at a Starbucks rewriting for the third or fourth time this book about my mom, which I've been working on probably for about 4 years. And it's like, okay, you know, I could be going to the movies. I could be, you know, it's like, I don't have to be doing this, but I choose to do it. I choose to be pursuing TV and film and book projects. So in terms of, like, if you said, okay, what's the next month going to be? It's like, okay, ship the mom book, get response on that, try to get that where they're actively submitting it. Get the trailer for Magic Time finished, get that to the licensing show, start pitching it in film and TV, maybe go with the Ghost Whisperer people for the webisode. A lot of other stuff is happening since we last spoke. I mean, you know, I'd wanted to do a book of Ray's uncollected Martian stories, and that ended up being this complete Martian Chronicles that I'm a contributor to, but I just proposed pitching it as a miniseries, and Ray agreed. So we now have the permission to go pitch this as a miniseries called Ray Bradbury's Lost Mars. Well, it's Friday. Michael Nankin is my friend who directs for Galactica and Heroes and CSI, and we went to college together. Good friend. He's also a wonderful writer, and so I brought him aboard Ray Bradbury's Lost Mars as my director. There's the project. There it is. There it is.
Hi, I'm Michael Nankin. I'm a writer, director, producer, member of the Roundtable, and friend of Mark Zikri.
So this is just our first kind of brainstorming session. We've had a few conversations prior to this, but it's just a start. But I'll be writing the script, you know, once we sell it. But Michael is helping me design the superstructure. And we do that with each other. We read each other's scripts and give each other notes, and it's a very collaborative kind of friendship because we've known each other for 30 years.
I met Mark Zikri in 1975 at UCLA. We were both art students. And Mark Zikri, circa 1975, had hair to his waist. I remember this mustache as being a big handlebar mustache, but maybe because I couldn't quite grow mine at the time. It seemed very luxurious to me. And he handed out business cards that said, Mark Zikri, champion of the oppressed. And we were in art school, and we were two kindred souls because we both hated the art school. And we were both looking for, you know, a classically oriented art training. You know, we wanted to be in Rembrandt's studio, but UCLA at that time had not recovered from the '60s, and it was all performance art, and you know, like there was no one to teach us how to sculpt a head or like prep a canvas, and we were getting very frustrated. And so we kind of like migrated, found our way over to the film department, which was much more exciting, and that's how both of us sort of started getting our feet wet in the movies. I found myself in the UCLA Film School, and it worked out for me the way every student who goes into film school thinks it's going to work out, but never does. And it was just this somehow, the finger of God came down for some stupid reason and touched my student film. And we started at Disney, and my directing partner and I pitched a story. We wrote a script. They greenlit it. We made a movie, and I was a Hollywood director at 22. Everyone who's sort of trying to get into the business thinks that, like, you get in, there's this golden gate, and then once you're in, it's like it's smooth sailing, and then your career trajectory does that. But everyone who's been everyone who's passed the Golden Gate knows that it goes like that. And, basically the greatest skill you can have is survival. My feature career went up and down and up and down, and at one point I was working as a feature writer, doing fairly well. A friend of mine who directed a movie I wrote directed a pilot for a show called Life Goes On and invited me to come see it, and of course I said, well, television, I don't know. But I went and saw it, and it was better than most features, and the writing they were doing was better than what I was doing, and I thought, I could learn something from these people. And they were very nice, and the scripts they were writing were really, really top-notch. So I signed up, and then I was in episodic television. This was that was 1989. Suddenly I was a television producer, television writer, television director. It was all very good. It was a kick in the ass that my career needed, and I found that I loved episodic television because you just get to do so much work.
We're waiting to find out if J.J. Abrams' company comes aboard. And we've got a conference call with his manager and agent for 6 o'clock, and I don't know if he'll be available for that, but we are following up with you, so give me a call back when you can. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Probably my ambivalence about moving into features was based on part of the fact that I wasn't unhappy. I just wanted everything. I looked to Mark and Elaine to sort of help me, like, well, why am I moving so slowly in this direction? And then I've also been there to, tell war stories to, people who wish they had war stories. There's the traditional Hollywood gathering. There's parties, there's screenings, there's, retreats. And I think that there's an undercurrent in those things, not that I've been to enough of them, an undercurrent of a hidden agenda. Because people talk to each other with the subtext of, what can you do for me? And that's pervasive. It's pervasive in all of LA, really. There's a lack of sort of unfettered, genuine communication. Whereas at the table, even though people are there because they need something, they're I think maybe because the agenda's right out in the open, and everyone, and I think the unspoken invitation of the table is like, we all need something, and I've used the table as much as I've helped the table. I mean, it's like, it's almost like AA. It's like, hi, I'm a director and I need help. Once that becomes up front, then everyone can relax. And we can all talk about what we need, and we can all talk about how we can help each other. And it becomes a genuine discourse rather than posturing that you don't need anything when actually Drew is trying to get as much as you can.
I've brought you these 2 bags of videotapes, DVDs of both shows I've written and appearances I've made on shows like The Today Show, BBC, etc. Over the course of the last several decades.
It's been a hell of a year.
Well, I'd like it to be more of a hell of a year.
Okay.
So,
well, you still have
a few months to go. Yeah. Well, we have to have a happy ending for this documentary. So I stay up nights worrying about it. It's like I just because you either have a documentary has to end one of 2 ways. It can't just end things continued on as they were, nothing particularly happened. I mean, what kind of ending is that to a documentary?
But you've always said that whatever success you've attained, you figure out another goal to reach. So at the end of this year, whatever it is that you've gotten accomplished, is pretty much success, yes?
I don't know. If some might say yes. I wouldn't. For me, it's pretty black and white. You make stuff, it gets out to the audience, you earn money. My goal since I was 13 and read The Making of Star Trek was to be in the tradition of Rod Serling and Gene Roddenberry and all those guys. I mean, many of my friends have succeeded at that. Joe Straczynski did Babylon 5, Rocky O'Bannon did Farscape. I mean, many of my friends have created the landmark science fiction shows of the last 20 years. I'd like to do that. I'd love to have Magic Time on the air. Magic Time that's why I created it, to be that.
You have tons of friends that you worked with in the past. How is it that you've got friends that are well, they're executive producers of current shows right now that love you, they adore you on camera.
Why won't they hire me?
Why can't they buy one of your scripts?
I don't know. It's one of the mysteries of my life. I don't know the answer to that, because when I was on any number of shows, it was very easy for me to bring people in, get them assignments. It was a snap. I did that with Michael Reeves and Ricky Manning, David Gerald on Sliders. Anyone that I saw who had the ability and also needed work, it was like that. The fact that I haven't been hired on the show for many years, I think pass the ball. You know, it's sort of like, okay, he seems smart, he seems to be a good writer, but on the other hand, he's not on his show. It seems to be, but these are all guesses. The real answer is I don't know. I don't know. So I have to make my own opportunities.
Mark uses the phrase, get things to the finish line, wants to get things to the finish line. And I'm constantly asking him, what is the finish line? Because if you don't know what the end is, what success is, how will you ever know if you got there? So I was like, we need to change what we're doing. And that primarily means narrowing it down, narrowing the focus down, because you're working yourself ragged and it's not getting anywhere. I brought in, you know, the tools that I had used for years and tried to apply them here, which was every Monday we have a meeting and the deadlines and goals for the week are discussed. And then the following Monday, we talk about how we did. The best case scenario is that any of these things goes is that he and I'll keep working on them. You know, I sell a show, he sells a show, you know, going to do our darndest to make sure the other person's included. I mean, there's no paper or anything like that. But he's just, you know, I trust him.
Does anyone want to come next week? Christmas Eve?
Anybody want to come?
Skip it.
Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve? No?
I guess skip it. Okay, good. So then we'll send out emails. So the table was on the third week, yeah, on the 7th.
And so just wanted to really come in tonight because it's been so busy lately and wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and
Ramadan.
Peace, love,
I shot a film, took 2 years. There are 23 actors in it, most of them from the table, and including Mr. Barry and Miss Callie. I got another rejection letter. I took it into the backyard and I set it on fire.
Yay!
Dumped on it.
Burning Man. I had a meeting that's now been put off. Today would have been 3 weeks solid that it's like, tomorrow we're going to talk. And finally today, right before I'm ready to go out of town tomorrow, he pulls me into his office. We have maybe a 15-minute meeting, and he's like, absolutely, I'll give it to my guy at UTA right after the break. So all that happened in the last hour or so before I came here with essentially nothing to report. So that's basically it, other than that Mark Elaine got me a really nice journal for Christmas.
Basically, you look back over the year, what you accomplished, what worked, what didn't. You get your stats, and then you lay out the next year. And I highly recommend that. If someone had said, "Well, what did you do this past year?" I would have said, "Well, not much." But then when I actually looked, it was like a lot. Okay, so again, I urge you to like look back over your year for clarity, and then look forward to the year coming and what you want to have accomplished, and just really be the engine that drives you. So just wanted to mention that. We've been bulldozed out of 2 restaurants and thrown out of 3, so Patty's, we may not end up staying at Patty's. I mean, the name of the table initially was the Hamptons Round Table because we started at Hampton's Restaurant, and then it got bulldozed, which was a hint to move on.
Give us an update on
Will Watkins and Mark Haynes?
Yeah.
Well, Will Watkins, he's written a screenplay that's been optioned by his boss, and they're taking it to major companies, and it looks very, very good. He's also been hired to write a graphic novel, so he's doing terrifically well. Mark Haynes, he wrote a pilot. It's getting read by all the major agencies right now. He's doing fabulously well. They're both doing great. They're well on their way to major writing careers, I think. So, you know, my job is done. It is frustrating that the past year things didn't work. I mean, they didn't go the way. I didn't sell the mom book. I didn't get hired on staff. You know, it was a year of a lot of trying, but nothing really happening. And I just don't feel like stopping. You know, I feel like continuing on, and we'll see. You know, my friend Norman Corwin is turning 100, and he's still writing, and Ray Bradbury's almost 90, and he's still writing. So, you know, they're good inspirations. They're good inspirations.
All right.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Yeah, I want you to imagine you are now 65 years old.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me what you are proudest of that occurred to you between the ages of 40 and where you are now.
That's a strange question because I don't know what my life will be like at those ages. I think. I mean, the first thing that came to mind is that if all goes well in my life and so forth, and I'm still with Elaine, if everything goes well, that I'd be proudest to having maintained a a good, strong relationship over that period of time. I think that would, be the best feeling. Because I know so many people who are accomplished in their careers and their lives are chaotic and awful. And I think that'd probably be the proudest thing. Beyond that, work things there'd probably be individual things, but I can't know what those would be. But just having my basic home life continue the way it is now to that point would be a very proud thing. I'm proud of the fact that next month I'll have been married for 8 years. I think that's quite an accomplishment. I think that, something to be proud of. So that's my answer.
Your father agrees with your answer.
Oh,
I am proud of your answer.
Good. I'm glad.
Thank you, son.
Sure, Dad.
One word to describe the table.
One word to describe the table. Community.
Cooperative.
Happy.
Helpful. Embracing.
A blessing.
Bountiful. Necessary.
Inspiration.
Madness.
A lifesaver. Not the kind that you eat with a little hole in it. The kind that you can't live without.
Hope.
Rewarding. I mean, it's a dream come true, really. I mean, it's exactly what I wanted to have when I was a kid.